saying that he's off to a nice start. Why does it have to be all or nothing all the time?
Like, what am I doing? I'm doing it for the show. Field of 68 till I die.
This is the Field of 68 After Dark show, the only place that you need to be for college hoops every single night. Welcome to the Wednesday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark here on Sirius XM Channel 84. That is the ESPNU station. We are live over on YouTube. If you're watching over there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in the chat, ask us questions. We will be answering them during breaks. My name is Rob Dauster. We are presented by our partners over at Bet River Sportsbook, and make sure that you join us over at our pool on bracketfanatics.com. You can find a link in the description below, or you can use the code FIELD at bracketfanatics.com when you sign up. It's free to enter. There's a $500 prize pool. We got a lot to get into tonight. I'm joined by a treacherous cast. I have former Iowa State head coach Steve Prohm. I have Wake Forest legend Randolph Childress, and I'm also joined by the one and only Ashton Gibbs of the University of Pittsburgh. We got a lot to talk about tonight, fellas. We got a lot to talk about. The ACC tournament kicked into high gear. There were a couple of buzzer beaters and one nut punch. Xavier might have seen their bubble get bursted, and I have something I need to get off my chest about Bruce Weber. But before we get into any of that, we got to talk about Wake Forest. We got to talk about the Demon Deacons. They lost today in overtime against BC. I believe they were up by 10 with about 6 minutes left and kind of puttered that thing away. They now have one quad one win, Steve. They have two quad 2 losses, and they played the 338th best schedule. I'm not the expert here. I'm not one of the guys on fielding the 68, but when I look at that profile, I have a hard time saying that that's a team that deserves to be in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, today was tough. You know, today was an opportunity that they couldn't let slip by. And obviously, I think they made great strides in their programs in these first 2 seasons, you know, from last year to this year. But today was one they had to have, especially when you look at the non-conference, you look at their strength of schedule, and you look at the quad 1 wins. And I still think they're going to have a chance. They're just going to have to hope the balls bounce the right way when you look at some of these other high major tournaments that nobody steals any bids and they can still sneak in there. But I would if I'm Wake, I'm going to be very uncomfortable.
Yeah, Randolph.
I
agree
as well.
Go ahead, Ashton.
Oh no, I agree with Coach Prohm as well. In general, and one thing I definitely want to make is, you know, with being, you know, deeper into, you know, March Madness, you know, getting closer right now, you start to see the ups and downs of what really drives the team. And this is where, you know, predicated on your culture, your leaders, this is going to be huge. I think this is a huge time period for the schools like a Wake Forest that are on the bubble. You talk about Steve Forbes, Alondas Williams getting player of the year. Ultimately, when you don't have the, you know, the quality wins that you need, ultimately you need that leadership to get over the hump. You know, that's what they didn't do today.
What they look like a team. The pressure got to them tonight to me.
Yeah,
I thought they were a team that came out thinking like, all right, we got to win this. Kind of like what we talked about with Duke. You know, the Duke on that movie night with Coach K against Carolina. Those kids came out with all that pressure. I think these kids came out knowing that. I believe they know they had to win this game tonight, and that it would have been okay if they had lost to Carolina or whatever. And they felt the pressure of it, and they just didn't perform well. They didn't answer the bell. They didn't respond to the pressure, and I think it cost them. I think it'll be very difficult for them to get a bid. I mean, they got to hope everything kind of falls. But, you know, as we said before, as you already laid out, they don't have the strongest resume from the beginning.
Have any of you guys ever been in that situation where you're heading into a conference tournament and it's like, listen, I gotta win here if we got any chance? And I don't just mean, you know, when you're Steve, when you're at Murray State, or if you guys know you're not going to get that at-large bid. Have you ever been in a situation where it's basically you win or you're probably not going to get a bid? Any of you guys?
No, I haven't. From a standpoint of, you know, Murray State, you kind of take that off because, you know, for the most part, you're probably not going to get an at-large, you know, though maybe you think you should. But Iowa State, you know, when I was there, we knew we were either going, or I kind of knew, hey, we had to win the tournament to get in. We knew we probably weren't going from that standpoint. So, no.
We actually, the last time Wake was in the tournament, it was that way. We ended up, I think, if it wasn't senior night, it was close to senior night. We had to beat Louisville. That was that big win, beating Louisville. And then we had to win, and we won a game in the tournament. I think we lost to Virginia Tech in the second round, and they were ranked, so it didn't hurt us. And then that's how we ended up getting in the last 4 in. But we had to get that Louisville win and and we could not lose that first round game. I want to say it was the BC, and we won that game. And then, like we talking about now, the second round loss to Virginia Tech with Buzz Williams and those guys didn't hurt us, and we were able to get in the last 4 in. But had we lost that game, we were done.
Right. What is the pressure like in that moment? Are you aware of it? Like, how much do you guys pay attention?
You know
what
what? The funny thing is we were aware of it, but we were like, all right, let's just keep it loose and not even talk about it with our guys. Like, you got to block out the noise as much as you can, and just, you kind of carry it like, don't worry about that. We're going in this trying to win it. They just looked like they talked about it, and they just, I wasn't in the locker room obviously, but they didn't respond well to the pressure tonight.
Yeah.
And the one thing, when you look at from a standpoint of Wake Forest, on normal years in the ACC, they're in because of the strength of the league and what they did. I think the problem this year is when you look at their strength of schedule and you look at those games, it's because the ACC hasn't been as strong. And so those wins don't resonate as much in conference.
And I think tomorrow's the big bubble matchup tomorrow in the ACC is going to be Virginia Tech taking on Notre Dame. And I think that's pretty much the perfect example of what you're talking about, right, Prohm? I think Notre Dame finished second in the ACC regular season this year. And they basically have to win to solidify themselves for fielding the 68. We have them as one of the last 4 in. We have them playing in a playing game, Ashton. So I do think that this is an example of this is just what the ACC is this year.
Oh, for sure. I obviously it's not one of the top conferences, and I haven't had a great ACC or great season with my Pitt Panthers, but overall the ACC is down for sure.
Now, Randolph, you mentioned I think probably about a week ago that you thought Virginia Tech was the team that could sneak up on some people in this ACC tournament. They almost blew a lead to Clemson, but they found a way to get it done. Darius Maddox hit a 3 at the buzzer in overtime. Do you think can they win tomorrow? Can they beat Notre Dame?
I think they can. I think they can. Actually, I called the game when they beat them at home. I mean, obviously this is a neutral site game, and they're going to pose an issue for Notre Dame inside. I mean, they're a good defensive team. They have the bodies to throw inside, to balance out Atkinson, and the biggest difference is going to be that Mutz and Lazetsky matchup. One's more inside, one more's outside, but they got the perimeter defenders to defend on the outside. I mean, that's Virginia Tech probably feels good about that matchup.
How dangerous are they?
They're a balanced team. I mean, I'll say this: they're probably one of the few ACC teams that has a bench. Like you saw Maddox if you watched them, Maddox didn't get any burn early in the year, and now as the season's going on, then they playing the backup point guard who ended up the freshman being on the court. Padula is now starting to be on the floor late game, so they're starting to go into their bench and go like 8 or 9 deep. That a lot of teams in the conference just can't, they don't have. And you'll need that if they're going to go on a run, they're going to need 4 games to do it. So they're going to have to.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Steve, I'm sorry. I cut you off there.
I was just saying, if I'm Wake Forest, I'm probably hoping Notre Dame wins that game because Notre Dame's pretty much already in the field. When you really look, if you took a straw poll, Virginia Tech can work its way in. Yeah. And you don't want Virginia Tech. All these teams have 2 or 3 more days to get ahead of Wake Forest right now, to get ahead of Xavier right now. And so you need them eliminated as quickly as possible. So that's a big, Randolph and all the Wake guys, they're big Notre Dame fans, I would think, tomorrow.
Yeah.
And Virginia Tech I think the offensive flow for Virginia Tech and the way Mike Young runs, his offense, reversing the ball from side to side and getting quality shots consistently. I think that's, it's tough to scout as well, to your point, Steve.
Yeah, that's got to be so stressful just sitting there where all you're doing is rooting for these 11 teams that are going to be right there on the bubble to lose. And then you have to go and watch the Atlantic 10 or the Mountain West or the American, these conferences that probably are going to be 1 or 2 bid leagues that have some teams that can make a little bit of noise in there. I can't imagine what that stress level is like. Have any of you been in that situation?
You don't know. I mean, like I told you with us, we didn't know. We were just sitting there. You do the meetings, you do everything, the right way. You kind of practice kind of like we don't know. The question is going to be, but there's a big letdown if you're talking about expecting to go to the tournament and then, all right, I end up going to the NIT. And then you got to have those conversations like, all right, do I want to play into that? We had a situation with that one year and we were like, we didn't get into it. And they were like, guys, you want to play? And they was like, no. Tournament was in Greensboro. And before we got back to Winston-Salem, guys on the bus was like, nah, we don't want to play. Like, that's it. Like, we're ready for it to be over with. So that's part of the letdown you got to deal with.
Yeah.
I actually had, my first 3 years were, pretty good for sure at Pitt, but my senior year, we actually went to the CBI and ended up winning the CBI, but overall it just wasn't it was just different, man. When you're not really playing for anything, your sense of urgency, especially the practices, you got
nobody's hanging a CBI banner. Nobody's hanging a CBI banner up in the gym, right?
Hey, look, I'm not gonna lie. I think Jeff Capel right now, if Pitt made the CBI, he might hang a CBI banner.
He might take it.
He needs to hang anything that he can get. I do want to ask you guys about the Buddy Boeheim situation here, because for people that didn't see it, in the opening game of the ACC tournament, he I don't even know what led to it. It looked like him and Wyatt Wilkes from Florida State kind of got tangled up, but he very clearly swung and very clearly, I think you could call it a punch. If it wasn't a punch, he swung a closed fist and hit Wyatt Wilkes in the. I don't know if he was going for a nut shot or if he was just trying to hit him in the stomach, but he definitely hit him in the midsection, and he ended up getting suspended for a game. That effectively ends his Syracuse career if they lose to Duke, and that is not an ideal situation, I don't think. But I think Prohm, is that the right decision? Like, I don't really know what you do in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. Obviously, it happened. He made a play in the game he shouldn't have made. He shouldn't have done. It's a big, Syracuse, obviously, they've got an opportunity tomorrow against Duke. They've got a chance still to obviously try to get an automatic bid by winning the ACC tournament. So it hurts them from that standpoint. But, I think it's something that I guess we all learn that, you can go back, look at the tape. If you see something like that happened and transpired during the game, and go back and make a decision. And so, in that situation shouldn't have been done. And, obviously you got to be held accountable. And so the 1 game suspension for his sake and his dad's sake, hopefully they can upset Duke so he can get back on the court.
I feel bad for him if it ends up.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashton.
I feel bad if it ends up being his last game, man. Obviously the emotions, it's still younger, young kids at the end of the day. So emotions get the best of you. Obviously he should never hit them, but ultimately, if you end your career, your college career like that, that's tough, on such an emotional decision like that. Because we've all, kind of been through it.
Yeah, but ain't none of us throw a punch though and expect to. Well, again,
sure.
I read Jay's comment about it earlier today. I don't know if you guys saw Jay kind of post about it. I think you had to do something. And they blew it during the game. No doubt about it. They blew the call during the game. They should have done something. I don't understand why you're that frustrated and you're up 40 anyway. It's not like the game was close. And I think what hurt him too was, I thought Coach Boeheim was in dad mode when he went to the press conference. And having coached my son, I get that. That's something you're cognizant of all year. You say it, yeah, I'm on the coach. When I'm on the court, I'm just coach, but a lot, off the court, I'm dad or whatever, but you're always dad. Like, stop it. You're always dad. You're always on the clock. And that's just, it's he's pushing my son around, man, it's basketball. Like, come on. The kid made a mistake. It's unfortunate. It's sad because that's how his career is ended. But what would the punishment going to be if it was in game? I mean, what else are you going to do? Just throw him out the rest of that game? That was nothing because it was a 40-point game.
No, and if you get a flagrant 2 for throwing a punch, isn't it an automatic 1 game suspension?
Automatic anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's I get why Syracuse is that group is going to be frustrated with the way that this works out. Because I mean, look, they can beat Duke. when their guys are making shots, the way they made shots today against Florida State, they can beat Duke. But your kid threw a punch, and I'll tell you this: I think one of the biggest issues that Syracuse has right now as a team is that it's a little bit too much of daddy ball. So when you, RC, when you say that Jim Boeheim went to that press conference in dad mode, he spent this entire damn season in dad mode. And I think that's why we're looking at a situation where Syracuse is what they are right now. They're under 500, man. Look, I get it's fun. Like he's been in the business for 50 years, whatever it is. He can kind of do what he wants. He can go away when he wants. If he wants to have a chance to coach his sons, awesome. I have a son. I would love to. I coach him. I had a blast coaching him in 6-year-old basketball, where all I'm doing is babysitting and trying to make sure they don't kill each other chasing after the ball in these mosh pits. But so I get it. But it's also that's kind of why they are in the position that they're in right now. But listen, we got to pay the bills here. Coming up next, Xavier goes down. We're going to talk about whether or not they are still on the right side of the bubble's cut line.
You're clear.
Dagan, do we have any questions coming in on the chat?
I'm going to be honest. I've been watching the Seton Hall game more than I've been watching the chat, but I'll look through and find some.
I've been doing the same.
What's the score?
55, 53, 4 seconds left.
53. Seton Hall's up. 4 seconds left.
What are they reviewing?
Seton Hall with the ball.
To see if, I'm going to say to see who it went off of. But anyway, here's a question for you. Kind of talking bubble. We're talking Xavier coming up. But out of these teams, who deserves to be left out? Wake, Xavier, or SMU?
All of them.
Yeah, all three today.
If you're one of the teams where someone has to ask if you deserve to be left out, you probably deserve to be left out, and you're going to be lucky to be in the playing game.
Those are one seeds in the NIT right now tonight.
Yeah.
Arizona State was up 14 with 3 minutes left, and they lost. That's impressive. That's hard to do.
That's hard to do.
That is hard to do.
30 seconds.
Dagan, we got anything else in the chat?
Yeah. Who is a sleeper in, it says Big 12, Big 10, SEC tournament. Give me a sleeper in any of the Power 6 tournaments.
TCU, baby. 17-1 over at Bet River Sportsbook. You like that one, Pro?
I like that one.
Man, I
like
I
TCU.
can't see TCU.
I like that.
Yeah, come on. It's
can't,
Jamie.
but
That's
I like
because
it.
you're a Jamie guy.
I'm going Dixon all the way, man.
Yeah, I don't know if a
10
sleeper
seconds.
team will win the Big 12 tournament. I mean, I think it'll be one of those top couple seeds, in my opinion.
5.
Big 12. Same with the SEC.
There you go.
We are live. It is the Field of 68 After Dark. We are coming to you on Sirius XM Channel 84. That is the ESPNU station. We're live on YouTube. If you're over there watching, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in the chat, ask us questions. We will be answering them during breaks. Rob Dauster here with Ashton Gibbs, Randolph Childress, and Steve Prohm, my illustrious guests. We need to talk about Xavier. We need to talk about Travis Steele, because the Musketeers found a way to lose in the first round of the Big East tournament. They found a way to do the one thing that they couldn't do and still really have a great chance to get into this NCAA tournament. They are now sitting at, I believe it's 17. They're 18-13 on the season. They have 5 quad 1 wins. They have a couple of quad 3 losses. This is their second quad 3 loss. Ashton, I'm going to you first on this one. First and foremost, when you lose this many games in a row that they've lost on the stretch of the season, I believe it's 10 of their last 14 games. Should you be allowed to be in the tournament? Should we weigh some of these games that happen later in the season more?
I would think so. Anytime you lose that many, it's tough for me to put you in. I just, watching the game today, I obviously love how Paul Scruggs, plays. He plays hard, and, that was a little bit to his detriment, obviously at the end of the game. But I just thought defensively they didn't guard the ball in the second half. One-on-one defense, Butler got into the lane whenever they wanted. And then they overhelped too much as well, in those closeouts on those catch and shoots. They couldn't really get out there. And, for a team to be on a bubble like that, you expected a little, more sense of urgency, especially in the second half. Guys that are playing hard, but, just getting through the ups and the downs, the momentum of the game. But ultimately, I don't have them in. So and they needed this win, more than anything, obviously.
The one thing they got going for them, if you're going to look from a positive standpoint, is 5 quad 1 wins. And I know we've talking analytics and, we've talked about that and beat that to death all year. They've got 5 quad 1 wins. So if I'm them, I would be sleeping more comfortable than Wake Forest with just 1 quad 1 win. And that's just my opinion, because if you're really just going to punch the numbers that way. But you got to be sick if you're Xavier, just the way it ended. I put the game on after I got home, picking up my son from school. It's 66-60. And I text you guys like, is this good? Does this close? Does this put Xavier in? And I'm watching the game with my son. He's like, it's just a 2-possession game, Dad. And the next thing you know, man, Scruggs makes a great play, misses the free throw, and then obviously miscommunication. Steele, no question, wanted a foul only if they were up 3. Scruggs, unfortunately makes the mistake, fouls, and then Butler dominates overtime. And they put themselves in a tough position the way they just finished the season. You hate that because, I saw them in the early part of the year. I talked about them really throughout most of the preseason and early conference. I thought they had a really good basketball team. But what caught up with them? Shooting. It's what we talked about. Shooting and guard play, 3 for 15 from 3, 13 for 29 from the free throw line.
Yep, that's not going to get it done when you have a front court that can't guard anyone, RC. I think, to me, that's the biggest issue with this group, is trying to play Jack Fremantle, Jack Nungy together is just something that was a recipe for disaster.
Rob, let me ask you this now. Let's say it comes down to Wake. Who would you put in the tournament if you had to pick one between Xavier and Wake? And what metrics are you using to decide how they get in?
I think that Wake Forest probably would get left out in that situation, just because if you look at the resumes and you look at what has actually been accomplished and you look at the fact that Xavier went out and challenged themselves a little bit more in non-conference play, I think that you should reward that. That said, I would rather see Wake Forest in the NCAA tournament than Xavier. I entirely disagree with the sentiment that like a team that has lost 10 of their last 14, that is very clearly playing their worst basketball of the season, should get in over someone that has done something else. To me, I would make the comparison Xavier or Rutgers, right? Rutgers was awful for the first month of the year. They've been playing great. They finished 4th in the Big Ten. Give me Rutgers over Xavier, right? Is that that's kind of where I'm at with it. Teams grow during the year. Some of them grow up, some of them grow down. I would rather see a team that played their way in than someone that won a couple games early. Like when you come down to having to pick between one or the other, is that crazy? Am I wrong there?
No, Rutgers.
No, there's no wrong. Yeah, no. I mean, it's one of those from you would think they should be in being 4th. But
it's kind of like Notre Dame 2nd in the ACC. That's what's
we're questioning it. Yeah.
That's what's so different now than, I finished college in the mid-90s. I know, Randolph, you played in the mid-90s. Back then, if you're 2nd or 4th in these leagues, we're not even debating that. I mean, you're in.
When have we ever debated a Power 5 conference, finishing 2nd place in a Power 5 conference, and we're like,
that's true.
Are they really
second,
like
fourth?
Ever?
Yeah, never. I mean,
ever.
And
second?
In the ACC, and we don't know if they're in. Rutgers is 4th, and we don't know if they're in. To me, that's mind-boggling.
Do you guys remember in was it 2012 when Washington won the Pac-12 regular season title, but they went 7-6 in non-conference play, and they ended up not getting an at-large bid? You guys remember that?
I do.
That was when the Pac-12 was the mid-major, and I guess the Pac-12 is still a mid-major because they're going to get 3 bids this year. Let me ask you this, RC. We've talked about this a little bit before, but is it time for Xavier to make a coaching change? Like, I feel bad putting you guys on the spot, but I will say this: Travis Steele. This was supposed to be the year that Travis Steele got it done. You get Paul Scruggs back, you get Jack Nungy in. He built this roster. This is his team. This is his program. They collapsed again. They've lost 10 of their last 14 games. If they get let out of the tournament, like what are you waiting for at that point? You give them one more year to see if you can get it done. This was supposed to be that year that you got to try to get it done. 4 years, no tournaments at Xavier. That's tough.
You can't feel good about it. And the question is going to be, is that we talked about this earlier. So if you're going to go in the next year with so many lame duck coaches, unless you're sitting here telling me he got a massive buyout, then if you're going to make the change, that's just something that I agree in general. If you're going to make the change next year, then just pay everybody and go. Now, it's easy to say that in the pandemic. I don't know. Holding out hope. I mean, I like those guys. I don't like calling for anybody's job. I know the effect that it has, and it's brutal. But you also know you got to win, and it's not like we're talking 3 or 4 years. This is what, year 5?
Year 4.
Finishing his fourth year.
Year 4. Yeah. So I'd say he gets next year. I think you got to give him next year. I mean, there's nothing that happened this year that makes you look at next year to feel positive about it. I'll say that, but I do think you got to give him next year. You got to give.
I think the COVID year kind of messed, a lot of teams up just in general as well. But anytime you have a transfer portal like this, also, anything can change with one transfer, a couple transfers, and a high school guy. Depending on your culture, it could literally turn around quickly. So I'll never really count, many guys out, especially when he's this close to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and they've been right on the brisk of the NCAA tournament all 3 years, the last 3 years. I mean, they were in Maui with us my 4th year at Iowa State, and they were out there. That was his only kind of subpar year. His last 3 years, they've been right there on the bubble, right there to get in, and they still may get in. When you look, I mean, they've got 5 quad 1 wins, and you got to hang your hat on that. And they just can't hope Virginia Tech wins the ACC tournament, that, somebody like Florida wins the SEC tournament. You know what I mean? You don't need any surprises, and they still may get in from that standpoint. But, leading your team through COVID and different things like that happened over these last couple of years, that's not easy. And, that can change a lot of different things. But that's just the reality, and it's part of the business, though. And so you got to live.
They have the best resume, though, of these teams that we're talking about.
No question.
That they have the best resumes. So I think the only thing we're talking about, though, is there just seems to be a pattern that they're fading late in the season. Like, what is going on? Like, you got to address why. Is it something that you can be done? It's not a matter of coaching or whatever, the talent. There's not a talent issue at Xavier. So it's like, what's going on? Why are we fading these last 3 years? Because it very easily could have been tournament teams.
Yep. To your point, they lost 5 of their last. They lost 5 of their last 8 games in 2020, and they lost 6 of the last 8 games last season, and then 10 of their last 14 this year, which is not a promising trend. If you're Xavier, you're rooting that Michigan beats Indiana tomorrow, and you're hoping that VCU loses in the first round of the A-10 tournament, and you hope that UNLV beats Wyoming, then loses in the second round of the Mountain West tournament situation. You want SMU to lose. You want all of these teams that are in that same region as you to end up losing. Can I go on a rant about Bruce Weber, guys?
Yeah, because I had a good lead in. I was about to lead you right into Bruce Weber, because I was talking to my wife, and I showed her that I told her about Bruce Weber's press conference tonight, and it's kind of, the highs are so high in this business and the lows are so low, and that's just the reality of it. And that's it's tough about what we do. But there's a great quote I sent Coach Ritchie from Furman after they got beat. And you guys know it's Ashton, Randolph, y'all played at a high level. Like, you'd rather be in the dance and feel the pain, than not even be danced at all. Yep. So whether you lose to Chattanooga on a half-court shot, or you win some championships and you end up getting fired, man, I'd have rather danced and been a part and been in the middle of it than never done it at all and never experienced it. And so, but the highs are so high and the lows are so low. But, Bruce has done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, that's my thing with this, right? Like, look, it might be time. It might be time to make a change there, right? He's getting older. The program isn't trending in the right direction. They finished in 9th or 10th place the last 3 years of the Big 12. I get it. He's been there for 9 years. Sometimes you just need new blood, right? It is what it is. But you don't have to sit here and make signs to say bye Bruce at the game. Like, you don't have to sit here begging for him to be fired. You don't have to sit here like passing around jars asking for money to be able to go pay Brad Underwood's buyout. One, you're not getting Brad Underwood. Okay, he just won the Big Ten regular season title at Illinois. He might be an alum, but you're not getting him at Kansas State. Not right now. And two, can you put some respect on a guy's name that won you 2 Big 12 regular season titles in the last decade? The last time they won a Big 12 regular season title before Bruce Weber got there was in 1977.
Can I add to that? Because I'm like you. Like, what the hell? Like, you're Kansas State, dude. Stop it. Like, stop it. You're Kansas State. Like, stop it, dude. Like, somebody and some of these schools are doing stuff, and then you ranting and raving, and I get it. Everybody wants to win. Some of you are hanging on the banners of championships and stuff from the 60s or the 70s or even the 80s and 90s. Like, stop it. Put some money in the program. Put some money in. Just when you start putting the money into that program, then you can start talking. But don't act like you just can. Brad Underwood, man, stop it. He ain't coming to no damn Kansas State. Like get the hell out of here. Like, he just won a Big Ten title and he gonna leave Illinois. Man, stop it.
Yeah, and here's my thing. Look, listen to the coaches they've had at Kansas State. And Bruce brought this up at his press conference, Steve. They had Lon Kruger. They had Dana Altman. They had Bob Huggins. They had Frank Martin. Those are 4 guys that are I think you could probably say Lon and Bob Huggins are going to end up being Hall of Famers, right? And Dana Altman and Frank Martin are both very, very good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
None of those 4 won a Big 12 regular season title. Bruce Weber did. You know what else he did? He ended Kansas' reign atop that conference. He and Chris Beard were the 2 guys that won the Big 12 regular season title in 2019 that ended that streak for Kansas. He made an Elite 8 in 2018. It is perfectly justifiable to say, look, you know what? We need to make a change. This is not working, Bruce. We need to go a different direction. But have some respect for what that guy accomplished. He did things at that program that nobody else has done at that program since I've been alive. Just put some respect on it, okay? Be nice about it. And he's a nice guy too. Like he's not an asshole. Just be nice to the guy, okay? He's clearly hurting that he's losing. Listen, we gotta pay the bills here. But coming up next, we're gonna talk about more coaching changes stuff. I'm gonna put Randolph Childress, who is a native of the DMV, on the spot, and he's gonna tell us how you fix Maryland basketball.
Clear.
I had to get that rant out. I just had to do it.
No, you was right, man. Like I didn't want to go too hard on those dudes because I don't feel like listening to all my Twitter shit go crazy. But you're Kansas State. Get the hell out of here, man. Like, are you kidding me? Like, come on, man. Beasley ain't walking through the door, bro. Mike Beasley ain't coming back. Like, you don't have that pipeline coming from DC getting players and all them. That's over. Like, stop it.
They pushed Dixon out. That pit. That's what we going through right now. Pushing Dixon out, I think.
The grass is not always greener on the other side, man. The grass is not always greener. You fired Jamie Dixon to go get Kevin Stallings, okay?
1 minute.
He had a good resume at Vanderbilt. He did well.
Yeah, I get it, but it didn't work, right? Like, it's just.
Yeah.
And
I think the biggest thing that hurt Pitt is where you ranked from a Big East standpoint to coming into the ACC.
Yeah.
Where you ranked from the jump. And I think they overvalued it where they came in. They expected the Big East results.
Think about the guys.
30 seconds.
Like your teams, Ashton. Think about where those dudes came from. You had tough motherfuckers from New York City, from New Jersey, from Philly, from the East Coast. Right now, those kids, they want to play in the Big East. Yeah. They don't want to go play in the ACC. Like, you lost what your identity was and what
that was exactly. That's what I was about to say. Identity.
Yep.
Here we go.
We are back. I had to let the music play a little bit. That's a throwback. I've heard that song in a long time. This is the Field of 68 After Dark. We are live, Sirius XM channel 84. That is the ESPNU station. We're live over on YouTube. If you're watching over there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. All of that stuff really does help out the channel. I got to tell you guys about something really quick. It is bracketfanatics.com. I mentioned it earlier, but we are running a Field of 68 pool over at Bracket Fanatics, the best website to host an NCAA pool for you and your friends, providing a bracket experience unlike any other. Bracket Fanatics is similar to Yahoo and ESPN. You can invite friends, you make picks, you watch those picks go up in flames. What makes Bracket Fanatics different is that they eliminate the hardest part of running a pool, the payouts. Everyone that joins your pool must pay an entry on the site. Once the NCAA tournament ends, Bracket Fanatics handles the payout for you based on whatever parameters you set. The worst thing about running a pool is having to chase down guys like Jeff Goodman who don't want to pay their entry fees. This handles that issue for you. And you can make side bets all tournament long, because who doesn't love side bets? You know, my bracket usually gets busted in the first weekend, but I'll make all of that money back once Randolph gets a little bit too cocky with the picks that he makes in the first round. So head on over to bracketfanatics.com, join the Field of 68's bracket group. It's free to enter, and make sure you host your pool on Bracket Fanatics for the absolute best March Madness experience. Sign up today and use the code FIELD when you get there. Guys, Randolph, Childress, Ashton, Gibbs, Steve Prohm. My name is Rob Dauster. We need to talk about some of these major coaching openings. Maryland is still open. Louisville is still open. Louisville actually lost tonight, so I think that we should start there. It's tough for those guys, right? I feel for that Maryland staff for what they've gone through. They basically played out a season knowing that they were going to have to get a new job by the time that the year ended. Sometimes they did not play well. They actually tried hard tonight. I thought that was nice to see that they put in a little bit of an effort. So Mike Pegues, guys, they're probably on their way out. What would you do here, Steve? How would you go about rebuilding this Louisville program and getting back to what it was, where they're competing for national titles and ACC titles?
Well, I think number one, you just got to find the right fit. That's why, and I know nothing about from the coaching who Louisville really wants, but that's why I thought Kenny Payne would be a great hire because of a couple reasons. Obviously, he played there and he was a really, really good player there. He's been a part of a lot of success at his time at Kentucky, with Coach Cal, and did a phenomenal job there. Obviously, he's with the New York Knicks now. But I just think his ability, he knows Louisville, he knows the campus, he knows the city, he knows the tradition, he knows the history, and he can reconnect that whole program. The former players, he can touch and bring that community, bring that alumni, bring all those guys back together and get the program going in the right direction, because it is one of the, if you don't want to say 4 or 5 blue bloods, it is one of the top 10, 15 elite jobs in college basketball, without a doubt. And so that's why if I'm from an administration, you put your administration hat on, that's what I would think Kenny Payne. But obviously, a sitting Power 5 head coach, if he doesn't get the job, 2 or 3 guys I'm sure are targeted right now to go in there. But it's got to be somebody, I think, that understands Louisville and their tradition and what it's about, and that can bring those guys.
Let me ask you
together.
this, Steve. Let me ask you this. You mentioned sitting head coaches, right? Why would you go if you're in a place and you're having success and you're at a good job? Why would you take Louisville knowing what is hanging over the head of that program for the next 2 or 3 years, right? Knowing that we still don't know what they're getting from the NCAA.
I think that's sometimes why they end up, you want person A and you want person B and C. But if you're aligned with your administration, you can't put a price tag on that. If your family's comfortable in a situation you're at and you got alignment from above, why would you want to leave? If you're still at a place where you can compete, for championships, if your personal life is really good, there is no reason to rock the boat from that standpoint, unless it's just a no-brainer situation. And so that's why sometimes you have the trickle-down effect to where, man, A doesn't want to leave, B doesn't want to leave, C doesn't want to leave, and now I got to go to D or E.
All right, Ashton, I'm the Louisville AD, right? I'm hiring you, giving you a 4-year contract. What are you doing?
He needs at least 6.
Giving you a 6-year contract, right? Steve Prohm, your new agent. What are you doing? How are you rebuilding this Louisville program? How are you getting it going in the right direction?
I love the Kenny Payne hire and what Coach Steve said, but ultimately I think they need to get a recruiter, somebody that can get guys, whether it's transfers or whether it's high school guys. You talk about Louisville and you just think of the Russ Smiths, the Terry Roziers, the Earl Clarks, Terrence Williams. I mean, we can go
Montrezl
on and on. Montrezl Harrell. We can go on and on. Terrence Jennings, about guys, the amount of talent level that they've had through the years, were guys that were just role players, like not even the top guys, but guys that were big time high school guys that ended up going to Louisville, that ended up being role players that won championships for years and years. So ultimately, yeah, I think Kenny Payne being at Kentucky and just, playing there as well would be really good. But ultimately, they got to get the best recruiter. I think that's just unprecedented what Louisville has produced, for years now.
I know that you're a New York, New Jersey guy because the first player that you mentioned from Louisville, out of everyone that ever played there, was Russ Smith.
Russ Smith.
He skipped right over Purvis Ellison and went to Russ Smith.
Yeah. New York Gauchos legend, Russ Smith.
My guy.
But let's not forget, that's what got him in trouble. What turned this thing south wasn't the NCAA concerns. It was the NCAA concerns that made, they started losing recruits. So it's not like Chris Mack wasn't getting it done. I mean, he was getting it done when he started. But when these sanctions started coming out and the rumors started coming out, it's like Miami. We go back a couple of years, Miami was rolling. And then when this FBI stuff hit and then they start worrying about the sanctions, all it takes is a class or two to pull out. And then now it's just changed everything. Yeah, I think that's what hurt them more. So now back to what, Steve was saying, if I'm securing my job, it's going to take for them to go get the person they want. If it's not Kenny, they're going to have to give this person like a 7-year deal and just guarantee them. But the problem you have is, Steve, and I ask you this if you agree, the problem you're going to have is whoever you give the job to, they get some momentum when they start. You have to take advantage of that momentum right from the jump. So if you're sitting here worrying about sanctions, you got to be delayed on the sanctions coming, and that slows you down, and you still can't get the players you need by the second year. It's over.
Yeah, because now it becomes year 3. And now the questions start coming at you. Do we hire the right guy? Can you do it?
Do we hire the right guy? And you'll never. And that's the issue I think they'll have.
Randolph hit the nail on the head, though. And all of us have been at that level. Wake, Iowa State. Pitt. If you miss one class,
it's over.
That can change. Whether guys leave early, whether guys you just missed on guys. If you miss one class at the teams you're competing against, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. And they had Bryce Hopkins committed. He's a hell of a player now. He's at Kentucky. He ended up going to Kentucky. They had a couple other guys decommit from them. Now, I don't know all the intricacies on why they decommitted, but they did. Like Randolph said, they had some good players committed that ended up decommitting, from their program. And if you miss one class, it's very, very tough to get it back. And now the momentum starts going another way, because the first thing you got to do when you get a job, man, especially if you're rebuilding, is you got to get that momentum as quickly as possible going in the right direction and get your foundation built.
So, see, this is why I go with Kenny Payne here and why I think he's a no-brainer. One, he brings every level of player back into the fold, right? Everybody loves Kenny Payne. Who doesn't love Kenny Payne? He's a Louisville guy, right? So you get all of the people from the Denny Crum era and the Rick Pitino era, and everyone's coming back together with this group, and it's one Louisville family again. Two, I don't think that you're going to get someone that is good enough to be at the level that you would want. Like, I just don't see Mick Cronin going. I don't see Eric Musselman going. I don't see Nate Oates going. I don't see any of those guys taking that job at this point with what's hanging over the head of that program, especially when you consider you don't know who your boss is going to be, right? No one's going to go to any job when you don't know who your boss is going to be if you're at a good job. It doesn't matter what.
All they've done is got people paid. That's all it's doing is getting people extended, because nobody's in their right mind is going to take a job and don't know who the damn the president and AD going to be. Like, stop.
Yeah.
The sanctions, have the sanctions come out yet? Have the sanctions?
No.
Do they have?
No.
So there's so many questions around that program. But
if I can't get Kenny Payne, if I'm an AD, I am probably, because Mick Cronin's had success. He's been there. He's from Cincinnati. He's been at Louisville as an assistant. He's been at Murray State. He understands the landscape of the state of Kentucky from a fan base, from how it works there. I'd really say, all right, we got to figure out a way to get this done.
Yep. RC, we got a couple minutes here before we got to head to a break, but I do want to ask you, you are from DC, which is basically, we're going to just call Maryland as part of DC at this, for the sake of this argument, right?
Yep.
Can you get that thing going again? Can you get it back to the point that it was under Gary Williams? There's all the kind of power dynamics going on within that city and that region with the AAU coaches and the power brokers. There is the fact that you're playing in the Big Ten instead of playing in the ACC. There's a lot going on there. So, one, what would you do to get it going in? And two, do you think it's even possible to get it back to that point that it was at?
You got to get somebody that got some ties to the area. it's got to have some ties to the area, because it's really, with Georgetown being in the position that it's in right now, one of those two have to step up and kind of win the recruiting battle in the area. It's a lot of good players coming out of that area year in and year out, and they're just going everywhere else but staying home. And you got to get somebody there, or whoever takes over has to get some people in the area that has some ties to the power brokers and the people to get the players in there. If not, you're wasting your time. Like, nobody cares about what you've done anywhere else, your title. You better have somebody in there that knows the right people in that area, or you're just swimming upstream.
It's insane to me that I'm pretty sure this is correct. I think the last person to go from DeMatha to Maryland, someone let me know if I'm wrong, is Travis Garrison. Travis Garrison was the same high school class that I was. He was there 2003 to 2007. That's the last guy from DeMatha to go to Maryland. They're basically they're neighbors. That's crazy when you think about it.
Well, in Villanova, and I don't know Big East recruiting but haven't they come in there and gotten a lot of guys,
Josh Hart, Chris Jenkins
from Team Takeover and from
Slater now, Justin Moore. Like, it's a pipeline. It's nonstop.
From that area, and that's
should not
really
be happening.
But it's creating an identity. I think once you get a specific a certain culture, what type of guys you need. Obviously you want to get guys from the area, but having an identity. We just talked about the old Pitt culture. Like, we knew what type of guys that were coming in year by year. So it's not only obviously recruiting the area, but knowing what fits as well, just to keep everything going.
Yeah, and since we're on the topic of teams from our nation's capital struggling, Steve, we got about 10 seconds.
I was going to ask, are we going to talk about Carson Wentz since we were talking about all the teams at the DMV?
How do you feel? Are you excited? You seem kind of
I don't
upset.
know. I'm in neutral right now, man. I'm more concerned that Chase Young gets healthy, man. We just got to get him healthy. And man, I don't know. Emmanuel Acho, man, if you go read his Twitter, he's behind Wentz. He knows football, so I'm gonna be a believer until he proves me wrong.
Well, fair enough. But listen, we gotta take a break here to pay some bills. But
I'm glad we got that.
I had to make sure you got that in. Coming up next, we're going to tell you the mid-majors that you need to back that have already punched their ticket to the dance. RC's the expert on them. We're going to go to him first.
Clear.
All right, what do we have in the chat? There's got to be something good in the chat.
That was quite good. I was about to ask Prohm for his grade on the trade, so I'll let that slide till later. But we have a question from Ken Palm is a fraud, and I think this is relevant to this crew we have on tonight. What are your thoughts on UConn Seton Hall? And Rob, you're not allowed to answer this because we know what your answer is already. And why is Seton Hall going to win tomorrow? Because that's what I want to know.
Seton Hall is going to win by 25.
Stop.
No Bryce Aiken, man. I can't.
And maybe no Richmond. Richmond has that thumb thing going on, so be aware.
It's over. It's over, man.
That was not the right answer, Ashton.
Rob saying that so he don't get himself all hyped up about
he's doing the reverse. Jinx.
Yeah, he's doing the reverse psychology.
RJ Cole, first team All Big East.
Yeah, I like Seton Hall to beat UConn tomorrow. Seton Hall won their last 6. They're 9-2 in their last 11. I was just looking right now. I think they've got something to prove. They've just had so much stuff going on this year. COVID, injuries. I love Bryce Aiken. Obviously I know his situation, but
30.
Man, Willard's tough as nails, man. I like them to beat UConn tomorrow.
I like the Giants to beat the Commanders.
That was
I like the Giants to beat the Commanders.
Yeah.
10-6. 10-6.
All right, here's one quick.
10 seconds.
Oh, never mind. We'll hold it.
We'll hold it for the next one. Okay.
5 seconds.
We're back. It is the Field of 68 after dark. We are live on Sirius XM channel 84. That is the ESPNU station. We're streaming over on YouTube. If you're watching there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in the chat, ask us questions. We answer them during the breaks. Rob Dauster with Randolph, Childress, Ashton Gibbs, Steve Prohm, and guys, we got to give flowers to Matt Langle, man. We got to give him his flowers. Colgate is heading back to the NCAA tournament. Colgate, one of the worst jobs in America when it comes to the program that you're running at. He has won 4 straight. Well, he's technically won 3 straight regular season titles, and he had the best record in the COVID year. He's been to back-to-back NCAA tournaments in 3 of the last 4 years. Colgate, Ashton. Colgate is back in the tournament. And no, I'm not talking about the toothpaste.
I like him. I think Matt Langle's done a great job. Nelly Cummings is actually like I was kind of his mentor, so I'm really proud of him. He actually didn't play well tonight, but overall he's having a really good season. And I just think I've gotten a chance to watch them, and I think offensively they can really shoot it. But they do a good job of letting Nelly get downhill and make plays, not only for himself, but making plays for others as well.
So the Colgate, I believe they're the Raiders. They nearly pulled off an upset of Arkansas last year. I think they were up by 17 in the first half before Arkansas ended up coming back. Who out of this year's group of teams that have already clinched a spot in the NCAA tournament, who are the guys that are the most dangerous? Who are the guys that you think the teams that you think can make a run? RC, I know you like Chattanooga. You had them the other night. Great guards. Talk to me about them.
Love them. Malachi Smith is the MVP of the league. I mean, he's 21 tonight, but he's efficient. I mean, he's 50+% from the floor, 40% from 3, 80+ from all. He's a big guard. He's a 6'4", 6'5" point guard. So he's a post up. They get the right matchup, they'll be tough to beat. I mean, we all saw that shot with David Batiste hit. Batiste hit. I mean, that was a great shot. He's the second leading scorer, but they got Silvio De Sousa in the paint, who is a Kansas transfer. Big physical guy, gives them size, but they also got like Avery Diggs is another big, the Iena kid coming from the bench. They got enough size. They are a high major size team. I think that's why they overpowered the league with their athleticism. And they're a physical team, one of the better defensive teams. They struggle shooting from the perimeter, but if they get the right matchup where they can post guards, because they run like an old school offense. They'll be like, oh, I got Rob on me, or I'm taking them to the post. Or they'll run some ball screen for you to get switched and just play. They play inverted. They play inside out. They'll post their guards and space their bigs and just dive them. So, but size-wise, they'll match up with any high major in any Power 5 league.
And D'Souza, and you mentioned it, but having him and the experience he brings to the table and his size, he can match up with many front court players in the country. And he's played, his transition. There's sometimes I think when you transition down, you can kind of carry yourself a different way, thinking, hey, man, I played at high major. It's going to be easy. I went and watched them practice. I think I said this last time I was on the show. Man, he was awesome in practice. Yes. He was locked in, and he was awesome the other night. I mean, I think last time I saw they pop up his numbers, he had like 12 points, 14 rebounds. And he's had his fair share of adversity, and it's great to see him have some success, this year.
He finished with 17 and 14.
17 and 14.
Prohm, give me a team that you think can make a run, and you cannot say Murray State. We know you love Murray State.
Yeah. We talked about them enough. They haven't made it in the tournament yet, but I think they're the favorite now. Since Iona's out, I like St. Peter's. I think they got a chance. We were talking about VCU. They beat VCU earlier in the year, I believe. I think that's right. I could be wrong on that. But the other team, and they haven't.
Just say it with confidence. No one will ever know otherwise.
But the other team, and they haven't clinched their bid yet. But Montana State's a sneaky team to look at and see. I mean, they've had a hell of a run this year and been really good. The teams in the Mountain West and some of the West Coast, I hate to throw them as just kind of the mid-major Cinderellas, like maybe a Chattanooga or a Murray or some of those teams. But give me St. Peter's.
What do you got, Ashton?
I like VCU. I think just overall playing well at the right time. We talked about it earlier, Rob. Like in the beginning,